Hi everyone, it's Nicole here. Today we are going to use some of our new Jelly Bean Soup stamps to create this watercolor effect background. So let's just go ahead and pull out some supplies. The first thing I use are these watercolor paints. They're just very cheap Crayola paints, but they're actually really bright colors. I have a couple different size brushes, this skinny brush as well as this foam brush. Of course, you're going to need some embossing powder. And because we're using cling stamps, we're going to use some Versamark as well as a stamping pad, stamping block, sorry, and tons of all our new Jelly Bean Soup stamps. So whatever you want for your background is what you're going to need to pull out. I also have some punched hearts here that I had from another project that we're going to use to block off an area on the page. I also have a couple little cups of water on standby to rinse my brush out in between colors. And you're probably going to need some paper towel as well for blotting. So I'm just going to push all this off to the side. Okay, so what we're going to do now is grab some white cardstock and we're just going to start playing around a little bit with the watercolor paint. So the first thing you have to do is, of course, create the resisted background. So to do that is super easy by using your Versamark, your embossing powder, and your heat gun. So I'm just going to play around with some of my images I have here from the Irish Farmhouse Soup and Chilled Cucumber Soup stamp sets. And I'm just going to stamp an image and then add some embossing powder and then add another image in. Now, one thing I have learned throughout this whole entire process in doing this video is that it was a lot easier for me when it came to doing my page to stamp one image, heat emboss it, then stamp another image. That way I can line it up exactly where I wanted it because the Versamark is hard to see on white cardstock. Now, when you heat set your paper, you'll notice it kind of warps a little. If that bugs you a lot, you can just go ahead and once it's cooled off, just put that between or underneath a bunch of books just for a few minutes so it kind of flattens it out a bit. So at this point, once the embossed part is dry, you're ready to paint. So grab out your paints. You'll need your paintbrush and you'll also need your water cups pretty close by. Because the paints are dry, you just want to add a couple drops of water. You don't need a lot. The more water you add, the lighter your paint color is going to be. So if you want a really vibrant color, just add a couple drops of water. And if you want, this would be a good time to add one of your punch shapes with just some temporary adhesive on the back because you do want to pull it off. So I really wanted to use my foam brush to get some broad stripes. So I'm just going to go ahead now and do that and play around a little bit with the watercolors using my wider brush and then my thinner brush. And I'm just going to play with the paint colors and mix and match and just add little bits here and there. If you feel like your paint is maybe too bright for what you're looking at having on your page, you can always add a little bit of water extra on top. Using your brush and just dipping it into the water, you'll be able to smooth it out a little. And be careful around those punch shapes, or if you use something like a sticker, because the paper will soak up some of the water from the watercolor paint. So you really want to don't be too chintzy in those areas. You really want to get in there and give it a good amount of paint. So don't be shy. What you can do is once you've gotten what you've gotten to look like the way you want it anyway, you can go ahead and heat set it with your embossing gun. You can always leave it flat to dry for a while. But if you do have any punch shapes or stickers, you really want to dry those really, really well so that the color doesn't bleed from the paper that it has soaked into back onto your project. So just really make sure you get off any temporary adhesive that might have stayed behind and make sure that's really, really dry. And so there's the beginning of your image. So now I've decided I really want to add some droplets to my page because I really like that look, obviously. And so I'm going to go in and just take a little bit of paint and dab around my page and even just add a little bit more water to my brush to create bigger droplets. Now I'm going to use my heat gun really quickly on each droplet to heat set it a little bit, And then I'm going to go in with my paper towel and just dab off some of those circles because it will take a while to dry those completely the way they are. But as you'll see is the paint stays in those spots, but going with the whole watercolor theme, it takes it away. Now what I've done there is I've just taken my paintbrush and dipped it into just the water and heat set it and then gone in again and rubbed off. And you'll notice that some of the paint has gone away. So that's just another way of maybe taking away some of the paint where you think you might have put on too much in the first place. So I do have a couple other examples of ones I have gone ahead and done earlier with different Jilly Bean Soup stamps. So here's one I did with butterflies that I have heat embossed and just played with some paint colors. Again, I used the exact same principles. And I was just testing out some Alpha Bean stickers to see how that would work, and it worked out pretty good. And here's just another one where I mixed up some colors. So those are all my samples. So I do recommend again that you play around before you get going. So what I have done here is I've gone ahead and planned out where I want to put my photo, and I've heat embossed and put some stickers and some more of those hearts on my page. And now I'm ready to create my layout background. So this is no more testing. This is my actual page that I'm going to work on. So I'm going to go ahead and get out my paints and get started. I had planned in advance that I really wanted to do a rainbow type effect with this page. So I'm just going to go ahead and load up the colors that I think I'm going to be using so that I'm all ready to go. And I'm just going to start brushing across the center with the pink color that I've chosen. And around those Alpha Bean stickers, I'm just going to really dab a lot of paint in there just to make sure that I get the whole word pretty vibrantly. And what I like about those Alpha Bean stickers is that they are so clean and sleek that that's perfect for a project like this with the watercolors, because once you peel them off, it's really easy for you to read what's written. Now if you see, take a look at the watercolor line there, you'll see it's pretty crisp. And I want a softer look, so I'm just going to take my water with my paintbrush and just soften that up by adding some water in between the two, and it just blends them together a little easier. And again, I went around my punched shapes a little bit more with some water and some paint just to make sure that it was starker. Now in between each of your colors, you really want to rinse out your brush pretty well in your water and squeeze it out just so you don't have too much of a mixture of colors. And if you have any hard lines or anything that you want to soften, just take your brush and dip it in water and just dab it where you don't like the hard lines, and it should blend it out a little bit with the water. So at this point, you just really want to play around with the paint and over your embossed and stamped image, and you go until you're ready to stop is what I say. So you can add some water, which will take away some of the paint in areas and add just another texture level to your page. And then you can dab off really where you think you've put too much, or add more if you think you need to add more. When you're all done, you can go ahead and get out your heat embossing gun again, and you can heat emboss everything just to make sure it dries the same time frame. You really want to get in there around those punch shapes and those stickers to make sure that they dry really well before you remove them. And again, I just went in and added a little bit more paint just because I wasn't sure that I got the image I want. So here's just a couple quick shots for you of what happens to different techniques on the page. This is what happened when I just added water onto the yellow part of the background. This is where it just kind of removes the paint. And what I like about this here is this is what happens if you don't wipe off the watercolor paint onto your embossed image. When you go on it again with your embossing gun, you'll notice that the paint gets more saturated on top, which actually looks pretty cool in real life, I should say. And here you can just see the subtleness of the difference between the stamped embossed image and the heart shape that was just put there with the sticker. And you can really see how the colors blend really well together, and yet you still have your sticker image or your embossed image from the stamps really easily shown. And so I'm gone ahead and I've just finished adding some details to my page. I went in and added some stitching, and a couple pop-up, die cut shapes, and my page is complete. So I hope you like this video. If you'd like to leave us a comment and let us know what you'd like to see in upcoming tutorials, we would love to hear from you.